Thanks for checking out my video. If you want to learn more from me, I have a lot of classes on Udemy. You can find the links to a lot of those in the description. Alright, as long as my camera is working, let's talk about shadow work for a little bit. And if you are coming to this channel and you're like, I want to know about spells and rituals and how to invoke spirits and whatnot, I got plenty of videos for that. So check the other videos and stuff. But if you come into magic and spiritual practice and don't expect to transform yourself personally and grow, you're going to have a bad time. I keep using that more and more often lately. I should really just plaster the meme over my face when I do it. But one of the biggest things, and I'm probably going to be making several videos that talk about this kind of stuff as I'm formulating a big course and whatnot. So keep your eyes out for that, because as it comes, as it starts to manifest itself from the Hanak Pacha down here to the Kai Pacha, I am probably going to be sharing more and more about it. But the Jungian psychology is so huge and so pertinent and so important to any spiritual or magical practitioner, mainly because it doesn't talk about psychology as far as things like Erickson and Piaget, and well, Freud does kind of dip into the kind of stuff that we would need to explore in a spiritual sense, but Jung does way more. And because of his focus on symbols and allegories and collective unconscious and just those big, deeper themes, because even though we're talking with words right now, words themselves are morphemes and graphemes, symbols, and your brain interprets symbols and stuff more than language. That's why you can, see the outline of a stop sign even without the words on it, or even like an octagonal stop sign. Or is it hexagonal? Hexagonal stop sign. And even if it has a different alphabet on it, it means a stop sign, because we understand symbols. If there was some kind of famous quote or something, I'm going to paraphrase it here, but those that control the symbols control reality. Ooh, really deep. And if I find that quote, I could probably make a freaking iceberg rabbit hole video on that one. Let me know if that would sound cool, because I might be able to put that together, God knows when. Anyways, so Jungian psychology really brings us into the inner person and the deep mind, and gives us ideas of the different energies, thoughts, and archetypes that are playing around in our deep unconscious and even in the collective unconscious, because everything is connected. I mean, if you go with a spiritual or energetic model, or even a psychological model, if you go with Jung, so it aligns with all three of those, everything or everyone is connected through these universal themes and universal experiences, and one of those is the shadow. And you can tap this into alchemy with the different steps of alchemy. And the first one, Negredo, has to do with working with the shadow. So maybe you know some about shadow work and whatnot. Drop what you know if I don't include it, or your own personal point of view on it, stuff like that, down in the comments. But the shadow is the stuff inside of us that is suppressed, and it is stuff that wants to be made aware, wants to come to the conscious mind, because it's uncomfortable. And it's the things that we currently are not able to deal with unless you work towards self-actualization, the great work, your own magnum opus, stuff like that. And there's ways that it leaks out. If you've played Tears of the Kingdom, it's kind of like the gloom stuff that leaks out from under the castle, and it still wreaks havoc, even though the shadow, Ganondorf, is still down there. And what happens when he gets released? Oh, big bad, right? So anyway, sorry, I'm a little parched this morning. Woke up at about 45 minutes ago. But one of the ways that the shadow inside of us comes out is through projection. There's a phrase that I'm going to paraphrase once again. If there's something you see someone else doing that you don't like, chances are you do it too. And because we don't the mind wants to protect itself from threats, not only bears and cougars and lions, oh my, but also from psychological threats of criticism, of self-deprecation, of thoughts of failure and whatnot. Now, if you fall into depression and stuff, and you're in a depression loop, those of us that have OCD and CPTSD or PTSD definitely know this kind of stuff. CPTSD sucks. Where you can get in that mind loop of criticism and whatnot, and then, you're killing yourself from the inside, and there are two wolves inside you. Whichever one wins is the one you feed. But when we see stuff outside of us that we don't like somebody cutting us off on the highway, and you get really, really activated and grumpy about that, chances are you've cut someone off on the highway. There's times when, I'm driving kind of slow because the guy behind me is being aggressive, right? And I'm like, that's what you get. But then when someone else is driving slow, they're going, 19 miles an hour and in 25, I'm aggressive behind them. So I do that kind of thing. I don't like it when I am late, and I don't like it when other people are late. Stuff like that. So, a bit of homework for you. Think of the different things that people around you, the immediate people around you, whether it's your parents, your siblings, your significant other, people at work, people that are around you that you see on a daily/weekly basis. What are the things that they do that drive you nuts? And ask yourself and be honest and journal about this. Write it up, record it, whatever. All that, the writing and the recording and journaling and all that stuff is great, and you're going to be needing to do this for personal transformation to keep a track record, because there's a feedback loop when we're writing stuff down and whatnot. Think of the things that those other people do that drive you nuts, and be honest with yourself about whether or not that is something that you also do. It might not be the exact same thing, but you might be doing those kinds of behaviors in the same way. And the shadow is trying to bring this into your conscious awareness. And the shadow is saying, hey, you're not ready to recognize that you're doing this kind of thing. So I'm going to point it out in this person, and this person, because I'm looking for ways to show it to you. It's right in front of your face right there. That behavior sucks. You do it too, right? And the thing is, the shadow, what happens to the shadow when we bring light on it? It goes away. And through integration of the shadow, because the shadow is existing inside of you and it's opposing you. It's, for example, I used to get really, really hung up on criticism. Guess what? I criticized the hell out of myself all the time. So when I was dealing with that criticism, I would get really activated and try to over-justify it and rationalize it and just kind of poo-poo it. And then I would criticize myself, and I had to learn to, deal with the criticism both on the outside and the inside, rather than taking it to heart and getting all depressed and stuff. Little tangent there, I think. But what we want to be able to do is bring light to the shadow so we can see it and work with it. What is this thing trying to tell me? Because the shadow is trying to tell you where your growing edges are. It's trying to tell you where you run into things with other people and yourself that get you off kilter. With the criticism, for example. I run into problems and anxieties and other things when I get criticized, thanks to my CPTSD. And I also internally criticize myself. Should I be criticizing myself? No. Constructive criticism, great. Berating criticism, no. So if there's other people outside of me that do berating criticism, well, screw them. And if it's constructive criticism, I got to be able to take that in. So once I'm starting to honor that stuff from the outside, I can honor that stuff from the inside. And the thing is, it's not going to put me off kilter. I'm not going to be on that seesaw going back and forth with it being all crazy, getting activated and getting super emotional, whether it be angry or sad or what have you. So we can take those things in, and it's not going to rock our boat. So the different things that the shadow is trying to show you is trying to get you to understand those things in a way that's not going to get you activated. It's not going to get you reactive so it doesn't rock your boat. Because the ultimate goal of the self is smooth sailing, not rocking the boat, not a tug of war of who's in charge and who's running the ship, whether it's your anima or animus, depending on your persuasion and gender and stuff, or the shadow versus the self. There's a lot of different parts work, kind of interrelated, that I've talked about on this channel before, that need to be integrated and honored in order for you to self-actualize. We can lean into the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but even though that's more material stuff, but there's kind of a hierarchy of needs, or the alchemical way of transformation, that goes in a sequential order. And the first kind of thing to deal with is your shadow. So you can, interact with this in a journaling format, in a self-questioning format. In one of my previous videos, I talked about the importance of just sitting still in silence and really hearing what's going on in here. Because as much as I love having music going, all the time, I got the smart speakers throughout the house and I always have music playing. I've found it's much better sometimes to sit there with no music going and don't distract myself on my phone or with reading or whatever. And you really start to hear things that come up. And when you're doing those introspective activities like that, even maybe, drawing some tarot cards about what's going on with you, and then the symbolism will start to speak to you because your subconscious is always trying to talk to you in some ways to alert you of the shadow wants you to know this stuff because it wants to create havoc, but you can alchemize it in a way where it leads to transformation rather than havoc. And the more that you do this stuff, the more you're going to understand these are the darker parts of me that I'm projecting onto other people. And when I start to recognize it in here, I'm not going to project it onto other people. Those other people aren't going to bother me. We're not going to have this energetic exchange of crap. So, yeah. Big psychology lesson, but at least from my perspective, and I've written books on this stuff, Mastering Ritual Magic is one of them. Check it down there in the description, through the link tree. But psychology and magic go hand in hand. And if you don't, even whether or not you think about magic from a psychological perspective, or a spiritual perspective, or an energetic perspective, or a chaos perspective, an atheistic perspective, the mind is the tool, man. The body is just, part of the tool, but it's all run by the mind. So we got to understand what's going on in here. And one of those things is your shadow and shadow work. Okay, so ranted long enough. Let me know what you guys think about this one. Drop anything that you have to say to me in the comments. Suggest any further videos and whatnot. Let me know if you like this Jungian angle of stuff, because I think this is something I'm going to be harping on for a bit. If you want me to dive into anything specific, please suggest it. Check out all my classes on Udemy and my latest novel that came out in January. All the links are down there in the description. Until next time, I'll see you. Good hunting.